Program, B.S. English. Course, Literary Criticism. Topic, Aristotle's concept of tragic hero. Prepared by Dr. Shahryar Khan. Question. Critically examine Aristotle's concept of tragic hero. Introduction. In his discussion of tragedy, Aristotle has also discussed his concept of tragic hero. The passage in Poetics which deals with ideal tragic hero has attracted a great deal of critical attention. Aristotle says, "It follows plainly, in the first place, that the change in fortune presented must not be spectacle of a virtuous man brought from prosperity to adversity, for it moves neither fear nor pity, it simply shocks us. Nor again, that of a bad man passing from adversity to prosperity, for nothing can be more alien to the spirit of tragedy, nor again, should the downfall of an utter villain be exhibited. A plot of this kind would, doubtless, satisfy the moral sense, but it would inspire neither pity nor fear, for pity is aroused by unmerited misfortune, fear by the misfortune of a man like ourselves." Point 1. According to Aristotle, the function of a tragedy is to arouse the feelings of pity and fear. Two kinds of people can't arouse feelings of pity and fear among the audience. 1. A perfectly good man. 2. A perfectly bad man. Firstly, a perfectly good man, if he suffers the fall from prosperity to misery, will not arouse pity and fear. Instead, he would simply shock the sense of justice of the spectators. The shock arises from the fact that a completely virtuous man is suffering, and in this way the suffering is irrational and undeserved. Moreover, a perfectly good man always keeps his desires and passions under control, and he would make calculated moves. He would never commit a mistake which can bring about such a disaster. Therefore, in case of a perfectly good man, the tragic action would come to a halt. Point 2. On the other hand, a perfectly depraved person also can't arouse the feelings of pity and fear. A completely bad and villainous person falling from prosperity to adversity would merely satisfy our sense of justice, and there would be no feelings of pity and fear. The suffering is deserved and fear would be absent, because the spectator would never associate himself with such kind of a person. Also, a tragedian can't present a bad man rising from adversity to prosperity, because the audience would not tolerate it. In fact, it would be quite alien to the spirit of tragedy and would offend the sense of justice of the audience. It is true that in Elizabethan tragedy, there are some exceptions when the tragedians were able to arouse the feelings of pity and fear through wicked characters. Marlowe's Dr. Faustus and Barabbas and Shakespeare's Macbeth and Richard III are the examples of such heroes. Point 3. According to Aristotle, a tragic hero then is a person who stands between saints and devils. He is a man like ourselves but slightly idealized. He is neither totally a depraved person who arouses the feelings of disgust nor a saint standing too high above the pedestal of virtue. He is essentially human, so that it is easy to identify with him and to sympathize with him. Atkins has summarized the qualities of a tragic hero in these words. He is a man not preeminently good, though of average virtue, who is overtaken by some misfortune brought of some hamartia, some error of judgment. He falls from the position of lofty eminence, and the disaster that wrecks his life may be traced not to deliberate wickedness, but to some great error or frailty. Point 4. Bradley has interpreted hamartia as tragic flaw, but tragic flaw can be taken as a moral failing, and Aristotle did not mean that. In fact, hamartia is some error of judgment, that is, the fall of the hero comes about not of some depravity but of some error on his part. It is a kind of error or miscalculation, and it may arise in three different ways. Firstly, it may arise from an ignorance of facts or situation. Secondly, from negligence or a careless view of a given situation. Thirdly, it may be caused by the rashness on hero's part. In case of Oedipus, we can observe all three present in him. The hamartia of Oedipus lies in his proud self-assertion. As he says to Tiresias, "When that hellcat the Sphinx was performing here, what help were you to these people? It was I, Oedipus, the simple man, who knows nothing, I thought it out for myself, no birds helped me." Secondly, he was ignorant of the fact that he is son of Laius and Jocasta. Thirdly, his rashness takes him too far from where he could not return. Point 5. Othello also does not judge the situation properly. In his impulsiveness, he acts blindly without thinking about the consequences. It is a tragic irony that the hero commits this error in blindness and without any evil intention, but the result is a disaster. This is what Aristotle calls peripety, as the result is opposite to the one intended by the hero. Butcher remarks: Othello, in the modern drama, Oedipus, in the ancient, are the most conspicuous example of ruin wrought by the characters, noble indeed but not without defects, acting in the dark as it seemed, for the best. Point 6. There is also another interpretation of hamartia in which it is said that hamartia is not a flaw or an error of judgment. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Hamartia is the best quality of tragic hero, and this quality is the most prominent one in his ordinary life. But in an exceptional situation it becomes his flaw. In case of Oedipus, his best quality is his love of people and city, and this quality has won him fame and popularity among the people and made him a very good king. But this self-same quality proves to be fatal and dangerous for him when he faces the problem of his identity. For the love of his people and city, he continues to investigate despite knowing the fact that this investigation would lead to his destruction. Same is the case with Othello. As Othello is a soldier and his impulsiveness has helped him to handle different situations in wars, and also this quality is admired by the people in his profession. But this impulsiveness proves fatal in his domestic life, where a calm and calculated attitude was required. On the contrary, Hamlet is calm and calculated, and he thinks of all possibilities. Tragically, he is put into a situation where he has to act impulsively and immediately. He fails to do so and pays the price for it. In this way, his quality, which could have made him a very good king, proves a flaw in the tragic situation. Point 7. Apart from these qualities, Aristotle has also mentioned 4 general characteristics which should be present in tragic characters, that is, not only in tragic hero but also in other characters. These are goodness, appropriateness, true to life, and consistency. 1. Goodness. A character is assumed to be good if his words and actions reveal a good purpose. The audience cannot be sympathetic to a character having evil intentions. A bad man can't arouse the feelings of pity and fear, therefore, an entirely wicked person has no place in tragedy. Aristotle has emphasized on goodness, but this emphasis has given birth to many controversies because the critics are divided with respect to the meaning of goodness. In fact, Aristotle has not used goodness in the Christian sense, where it means moral goodness. The Greeks interpreted goodness in different sense, as they also included qualities like courage, bravery, or truthfulness in it. 2. Appropriateness. Aristotle has used appropriateness in a sense to bring out the essential behavior of a person according to his upbringing. Each character should be appropriate to his status and to his situation. He should not be a type, but he should act within the limits of his type. There is also another aspect of it. Some critics are of the view that a character should be appropriate to the historical and traditional portrait of him. We know that Greek tragedy takes its theme from myth and history, and, therefore, any character taken from myth or traditional story must be true to his portrayal in that myth or story. 3. True to life or likeness. By true to life, Aristotle means that a character should be true to life as we know of it. It means that we should see the characters as we see ourselves. The character should have all the qualities and demerits of common human beings, because only in this way we would associate ourselves with him. He should not be presented as a different or as an inhuman character. 4. Consistency. Aristotle says that a character must be consistent to what he is presented from beginning to end. He should always behave uniformly. If he is inconsistent, he should be consistently inconsistent. For example, if a character is presented as a coward in the beginning, he should remain a coward throughout. If he suddenly becomes courageous, it would violate the law of probability. Conclusion. Aristotle's concept of tragic hero has its limitations. Through the ages, Tragedy went through many transformations. Dramatists have been experimenting with its form and content. Even saints can be tragic heroes, as we see in G.B. Shaw and T.S. Eliot. The most depraved characters can also be presented as heroes, as we see in Shakespeare and Marlowe. Nevertheless, Aristotle's concept of tragic hero has its value, as he was the first one to discuss its possibilities.